Hello again, Danny H here. Basically, we're going to look at the National League, the EFL, how my predictions fared. Some were right, some were very, very wrong indeed, which is usually the case with predictions. Some teams often do way better or way worse than people anticipate. So yeah, let's have a look at some of my predictions and see how I got on. This is the National League because the EFL season hasn't finished yet. Well, the Premier League definitely hasn't finished, and the EFL season has finished. I mean, we might look at them. We'll see, but the playoffs have yet to be decided. And whoa, was there some controversy, especially regarding Southampton. Anyway, back to the National League. In 24th was Truro City. I actually had Truro up in 16th. I was hoping they'd do a bit better. I thought they had the foundations for something really good to do better than they did, than people anticipated this season, than they did. But unfortunately, this season it really didn't work out for them. They were really out of their depth, and unfortunately, they ended up bottom. Like I say, I had them in 16th. I thought they'd do a bit better, but they didn't ultimately. And in 23rd spot, we've got Braintree Town. Now, Braintree, I actually had them in 20th. That's probably a bit of local bias because I don't live too far from Braintree. So, yeah, I was hoping they'd do better. I think they overspent the first season, and the second season, they just really collapsed, especially towards the end of the season. Well, it wasn't a very good start, but they were really fighting, but. And I think the players they had would have done better, but they just really folded. They just completely collapsed towards the end of the season. Very, very poor season. Anyway, they finished 23rd. I had them in 20th. In 22nd spot, we've got Morecambe. Now, Morecambe, I actually thought would have a very poor season if they actually did start the season. I wasn't sure if they were going to start the season or not because they were suspended, but luckily they managed to get it all together, sort themselves out, and they ended up competing in the league. But they made a very dodgy managerial choice first, and I think the new manager came in, and I think he just came in far too late and to save them. So they ended up in 22nd. They're going to be in National League North next season. Hopefully they'll get everything sorted and get themselves back together and start getting back up the league. But don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that one. So yeah, second looks like I think it was the second successive relegation for Morecambe as well. I mean, I did have Morecambe in 24th, so I thought they'd go down again with all the problems they were having, but they did go down ultimately, but it wasn't bottom, so a little bit wrong there. And Braintree and Truro City I got quite badly wrong as well because Truro I had up in 16th and Braintree I had up in 20th. In 21st spot, this is the first prediction I actually got completely correct, and that was Brackley Town. Brackley, I just felt they'd be out of their depth this season in the National League. They did make a good fight of it. They sort of fought up until the end. Unlike the three teams below them, who really did fold like a pack of cards. Like and But basically they did have a bit of a more of a fight, but they did take it till late on in the season, and they did end up going. They ended up going down. I had them in 21st spot, and they did finish 21st. So first correct prediction for me. 20th, Aldershot Town. Now, I had Aldershot in 22nd, so a little bit out of it, a little bit out there. Not as bad as some of my other predictions, though. Aldershot did really, really badly this. I knew they were going to have a bad season, Aldershot, but because they had a reasonable start and then they just completely collapsed. They were lucky, actually, in a way, not to go down, actually, to be fair. But which doesn't bode well for next season by the looks of it. So I think they may struggle this season unless they can get some really, really good signings and get some stability at the club. And in 19th, this is quite badly wrong, and that was Sutton United. I thought Sutton would do a lot better than that, but they didn't. I thought Sutton would be up in 10th, but unfortunately that didn't really work out for them. They had a terrible season. I think they were predicting a bad season, the fans. But I thought they would do a bit better than that. But unfortunately, they didn't. They had an absolutely horrendous season, Sutton, and they ended up right down. And just above them, another team that had a comparatively horrendous season, and one of my predictions that was way off, which was Gateshead. Now, Gateshead I had up in 5th in the playoffs, which was completely wrong. And they finished in 18th. After a terrible start, they managed to sort themselves out and got themselves away from relegation. It looked a lot of the season like they were going to go down, but luckily enough, they didn't. They managed to sort themselves out, get a decent run of results going, and they got themselves out of relegation. So kudos to them, but obviously way off in terms of my predictions. In 17th rather, is Eastleigh. Eastleigh I had up in 13th. I thought Eastleigh might do a little bit better, but they really did struggle for quite considerable amounts of the season. So Yeah, very very poor season for them. I don't know the National League very well, but obviously I can only do my best. Mind you saying that, some of my EFL predictions were completely wrong as well. So Eastleigh 17th, I had them up in 13th. In 16th, Yeovil Town. Now this was quite close actually. Yeovil actually finished 14th. I had them in 6th. Sorry, they finished 16th and I had them in 14th. Yeah, so Yeovil really, I thought Yeovil were going to be a lower mid-table side, and that prediction proved correct. They, I had them down as a bit higher, but obviously didn't quite work out that way. In 15th, finished Wealdstone. I had Wealdstone right down the league. I had Wealdstone in 23rd to actually go down. This is one of the first teams that I picked for relegation that actually didn't get relegated and actually did comparatively well. They had a pretty good season by their standards. So Wealdstone, they actually reached the FA Trophy final as well, where they fought Southend to a draw. So yeah, they had a much better season. I think Wealdstone might do a bit better next season. So we'll see how they go. In 14th spot, we had Solihull. I actually had Solihull down in 17th. I thought weren't going to have a terribly good season, but they did do a little bit better than I anticipated, or I predicted rather. In 13th, Altrincham. 13th was Altrincham. I had Altrincham down in 18th. I thought Altrincham would struggle a bit more than they did, but they actually did much better than predicted. So, not a bad season for them. And in 12th spot, another correct prediction, Boston. I had Boston I predicted Boston to finish 12th, and that's exactly where they did finish. So, not bad. There we go. I've got another prediction completely correct. Boston did really, really well this season. They really had a good season. They had a pretty good season. Not a brilliant season by any means, despite what I just said, but not bad. I mean, they were mid-table, and they haven't got the biggest budget in the league, so did very well. In 11th spot, another team I thought would do a little bit better, although they might be a team to watch this coming season, and that's Tamworth, because they've got new US based owners. So we'll see new US owners. So we'll see how that goes. If that turns out for them, having US owners has turned out very well for Carlisle United, but obviously more on them later. Tamworth, I predicted Tamworth to finish 8th. They actually finished in 11th, so they didn't have a bad season at all. I thought Tamworth might do a little bit better, might have done a little bit better than that, but oh well, it is what it is. 11th spot, we've got in 10th spot rather, we've got Woking. Now this was only one place out. I actually had Woking in 11th spot. Now Woking have had a really good season. I think they could be a team to watch next season. So we'll see how that goes. Now in 9th spot, Hartlepool United. I had Hartlepool a little bit down. I wasn't sure what sort of season they were going to have. They are a bit of an unpredictable side, Hartlepool. But they did actually really, really well. Surprisingly, they did actually a lot better than I thought. They could be another team to watch next season. In 8th spot, FC Halifax Town. I had Halifax in 7th, so just one place out. I thought Halifax would reach the playoffs, but they just missed out. So not a bad prediction at all. Really not bad. Not a bad prediction, that one. So not far off. Unlike some of the other predictions. And in 7th spot, Forest Green Rovers. I had Forest Green in 4th. So they were in the playoffs, but they're in the lower end of the playoffs rather than the higher end of the playoffs. Despite everyone's prejudices about Forest Green Rovers, I think they did reasonably well. They didn't go up, unfortunately for them, but it is what it is. In 6th spot, Southend. Now Southend, where did I have them? I had Southend in 3rd. I thought Southend would have a better season. They didn't have a bad season, and they've really controversially sacked their manager after winning the FA Trophy against Wealdstone. So yeah, really, I don't understand that, because Southend went through some really bad times, and Kevin Mayer, the manager, really did steer them through these rough times. So this is a bit of a controversial decision. I think he was on the verge of taking them further up the league. So yeah, I think that we'll see how they go, Southend. I mean, if they get the right managerial appointment, they'll do well next season. Now in 5th spot, Scunthorpe United. Scunthorpe I had in 9th. I thought Scunthorpe would have a good season. I thought they'd surprise a few people, and they certainly did surprise a few people. They actually made the playoffs, Be interesting to see how they go next season. And in fourth spot, Boreham Wood. Now this was way wrong. I had Boreham Wood down in 19th. Sometimes when teams come up a league, it's difficult to predict what they'll do and what sort of season they're going to have. But Boreham Wood really got it together. They really sorted out, and they were a little bit unlucky to lose the National League playoff final. They've done tremendously well. They really have, and I expect them to be up there again next season. In third spot, Carlisle. This was only one place out. I actually had Carlisle up in second. Now, Carlisle, I thought Carlisle would really be fighting this season. I thought they'd be really, really up there. I thought it was going to be a duel between them and York. There was a duel between York and another team, but obviously more on them in a minute. But I thought Carlisle would be the team duelling with York, but obviously I got that a little bit wrong. Carlisle, I think Carlisle will now be favourites to go up this season, especially with the two teams that have come down. Obviously more on the EFL League Two later, but I think Carlisle really have done they really did fall at the last hurdle. They really fall at the second. They fell at the second last hurdle, unfortunately. Carlisle. I think Carlisle will be a good side next season. I actually think they'll be favourites to go up this coming season. And in second spot was Rochdale. I actually had Rochdale down in sixth. Well, I say down in sixth because that's still a playoff position. But Rochdale got themselves up to second. Really had a real battle with York City for top spot. That was a really exciting battle. York and Rochdale on any other season on 106 points would have over 100 points would have been promoted automatically by a country mile. But it wasn't to be this season. But they did still manage to get themselves up. So justice was done there. So they are now back in the League Two. So see how they get on next season. And in top spot, this was another correct prediction. My third correct prediction of the league. So I got 3 correct predictions in National League. So I did quite well actually, surprisingly. And that was York City. Now York I had up in first. I did predict they win the league. They've spent loads of money, and it was a real fight between them and Rochdale for the top spot. York just pipped them to the post. I mean, Rochdale did go up as well, so justice was done there because they were country mile better than anyone else, and York basically were just a tiny bit better than Rochdale, who again were a country mile ahead of everyone else. But York, I think York really did do well this season. But this does highlight one thing: should there be 3 promotion spots from the National League to League Two? Well, that's a matter of debate. I think personally there should be 3 spots. I mean, I don't think there should be any more than that. I think there should be 3 spots to go up, 3 to go up, and 3 to go down. I think, but we'll see we'll see what sort of agreements can be made on that. But this just reinforced the argument for it. So yeah. But anyway, back to my predictions. 3 correct results. Some near ones, and some were way wrong. Anyway, take care, everyone, and I shall see you soon. Bye bye.